You're about to take a deep dive into one of the biggest true crime cases in the universe, or at least on our part of the planet. From the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.
In the early 1990s, New York's streets echoed with the raw, unpolished energy of hip-hop, a genre born from the boroughs and now a national movement. On the opposite coast, Los Angeles mirrored this momentum with its own unique sound, gritty, rebellious, and reflective of the challenges its communities faced. At the heart of this cultural explosion were two record labels, locked in a fierce rivalry: Bad Boy Records, led by Sean Diddy Combs, and Death Row Records, under the control of the intimidating Suge Knight. What began as a natural competition between two powerhouse labels quickly became a feud that would mark one of the darkest chapters in music history. This rivalry didn't just play out in diss tracks and media headlines. It eventually left two of hip-hop's most iconic figures, Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G, dead. As the years passed, some began to question whether this feud was merely about music or if it had more sinister undertones. Specifically, whether Sean Diddy Combs was somehow involved in Tupac's murder. Diddy, once known as Puff Daddy, was an ambitious force in the music industry. After founding Bad Boy Records in 1993, he quickly brought East Coast hip-hop back into the limelight. With artists like Biggie, Maze, and Faith Evans under his belt, his success seemed unstoppable. But as his influence grew, so too did tensions with the West Coast, particularly with Death Row's Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. This feud would soon extend beyond music, morphing into a bitter, personal rivalry that would define an era. In 1994, the feud took a personal turn when Tupac was shot at Quad Studios in New York. Despite claims from Biggie and Diddy that they had nothing to do with the attack, Tupac believed otherwise. He publicly blamed them, turning a competitive rivalry into a dangerous game of accusations and retaliation. As tensions rose, so did the stakes. In the months and years that followed, both camps fired shots, not just musically, but personally. Tupac's infamous diss track, Hit 'Em Up, directly attacked Biggie and Diddy, while Suge Knight openly mocked Diddy during public events like the 1995 Source Awards. The music industry, fans, and media watched as the rivalry spiraled out of control, culminating in the deaths of Tupac in 1996 and Biggie in 1997. And while both murders remain officially unsolved, questions have long swirled around Diddy's potential involvement, particularly in Tupac's death. For years, these rumors stayed largely in the realm of speculation. But in September 2024, the narrative around Sean Diddy Combs took a shocking and dramatic turn. According to a newly unsealed federal indictment, Diddy has been charged with a series of criminal offenses that include racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud or coercion, and transportation for the purposes of prostitution. These charges allege that, for more than a decade, Diddy used his wealth and power to run a criminal enterprise that exploited and abused women. The indictment paints a disturbing picture of a man who allegedly used his music empire as a front for illegal activities. Prosecutors claim that Diddy and his associates coerced women into prostitution and forced them to participate in freak-off parties, where they were subjected to abuse and filmed without their consent. Women who resisted were reportedly threatened with physical violence, financial ruin, and public humiliation. The indictment also alleges that Diddy and his team transported women across state lines for these events, further reinforcing the federal charges of sex trafficking. These recent charges are not the first time Diddy has faced serious allegations. In 2023, his former girlfriend Cassie Ventura filed a civil lawsuit accusing him of years of abuse, including rape and sex trafficking. Although the case was settled out of court, it opened the floodgates for other women to come forward with similar stories. The racketeering charges against Diddy suggest that his actions were not those of a single man acting out of control, but rather part of a broader, organized criminal enterprise. His businesses, including Bad Boy Entertainment and his other ventures in fashion and media, were allegedly used as fronts to carry out and conceal his illegal activities. According to prosecutors, Diddy's employees were complicit in arranging hotel rooms, booking travel, and threatening victims into silence. The details of physical abuse in the indictment are particularly chilling. Diddy is accused of regularly assaulting women who disobeyed him, striking, kicking, and choking them until they submitted. These beatings were not isolated incidents, but part of a broader pattern of control, where violence, threats, and financial manipulation were used to keep his victims compliant. As the case moves to trial, Diddy's legal team has come out swinging. His attorney has labeled the charges unjust and vows to clear his name. However, the weight of the evidence, combined with the testimonies of multiple alleged victims, suggests that this will be a bitter and protracted legal battle. If convicted, Diddy could face life in prison for the racketeering charges alone, while the sex trafficking charges carry significant additional penalties. The revelation of these charges has fundamentally altered how the world views Sean Diddy Combs. Once seen as a trailblazing mogul and innovator in the world of hip-hop, he is now a man fighting to clear his name amid allegations of heinous crimes. The indictment's claims that he used his businesses and power to exploit and abuse women raise profound questions about the culture that allowed such behavior to go unchecked for so long. The music industry, long celebrated for its glamorous and aspirational image, is now forced to reckon with the darker realities that may have been hiding in plain sight. How did one of its most powerful figures allegedly operate such a criminal enterprise with impunity? And what does this mean for an industry already grappling with issues of abuse, power, and control? As more victims come forward, the true scope of Diddy's alleged crimes may still be unfolding. For now, the world watches as the legal system attempts to hold one of its most famous figures accountable. Whether or not Diddy is ultimately convicted, his legacy, once synonymous with success and innovation, has been irrevocably stained. The man who stood at the pinnacle of music, fashion, and culture now stands accused of crimes that threaten to dismantle everything he built.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface,
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
where hidden killers roam unnoticed in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Bruschi as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point of narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you've taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.